Hey legends, welcome to the Connect podcast,
A no BS approach to connecting people,
connecting businesses,
connecting communities.
and connecting successes. Connection is why we're here.
Well, let me imagine if I'm going to one of Pat's sites. So, and Ron, if you're working for me, I save your number in my phone as being Pat, and I go through and saying, I've got to meet Pat like upstairs, I'm already in 10 minutes late. Next minute, my phone rings because I've told you to wait 5 minutes. I'm saying, this is Pat calling me now. Oh, I don't know. What's your name? Sorry, miss. Discomfort. They're going to let me in.
Yeah.
He doesn't trust me. Because some of the things we pick up are things like blink rate. We blink 12 to 14 blinks a minute. If you're stressed, discomfort, or deceptive behavior, your blink rate spikes. If you're relaxed, interested, or you find the person you're looking at attractive, your blink rate slows down. So if I can be at the forefront of picking those things up and say to people, that person's got bad intent for violence and aggression, it ties to who I am. I can keep people safe. I'll ask you now, Ron, if there was going to be an eighth dwarf and you were going to be eighth dwarf, what would you be called?
Short black.
Okay guys, you're back on another episode of the Connect podcast with myself, Ron. We've got Pat, we've got Ben, we've got Scott Taylor, who's a seasoned and certified protection specialist. He's been in the security game for the last 30 years. He's a loving father of 2 children, wife, close to 30 years now, and he's been on a number of Australian networks, international channels, working with international intelligence agencies for training, and done a number of speaking gigs. So we're glad to have him today. We're going to talk about, dive into his career, dive into his journey, find out what he's all about, and also give some advice to help you with your business, with your behavioral understanding to do with your employees, and also maybe help with some interviews when, positioning for that next person in your business as well. So Scott, thanks for joining us today, mate. It's good to have you here.
Great to be here. Really looking forward to the chat.
Welcome
to the show, Scotty.
Mate, well, looking into you and seeing what you've been able to achieve, I was so excited diving into this conversation just because of the different ways it can go. A lot around the human behavior, a lot around the security. But there's just, it's like we're tapping into a wealth of knowledge. And we're excited to sort of showcase this to our viewers and our listeners. But if we were to summarize everything, summarize what Ron said, just if we can simplify everything and summarize it all, what do you do?
A whole different angles around it, but now in essence, I protect a whole range of people, so the people, property, information, and reputation, and help people to be the best version of themselves by giving them customized training and support. So how to speak, how to connect with others, how to influence, how to be a better leader, those sort of things, but also just to enhance people's awareness of self and others. So the behavioural focus in and around the security, safety and risk, but it just leads to a whole range of other things.
And it is all encompassing. I know I met Scott when I first started the business about 8 years ago, and seeing your journey just on social media and what you do, it's so much of different areas in terms of where you're going. So it's very hard to introduce someone that's got their hand in like a lot of pies, but it will be great to see, where that is going and how that can help with this in this era of time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I never have 2 days the same. So my work may go from doing some behaviour-based penetration testing, so talking and sneaking my way into secure premises by using behavioural skills, building rapport and trust and those sort of things, or giving organisations advice on how to do the opposite, picking up people with bad intent for shoplifting, antisocial crime, violence, all those sort of things. But I suppose the other thing, there's some parts where you know that you're in the right spot, doing the right thing. I've been able to give some training and support to retailers in the national space, and they're dealing with increasing aggression and frustration, and to hear people come back and say they've been able to deal with more confidence and go home safe to their families. So, that's the sort of stuff where you can have real impact.
Well, rewind back a little bit, Scott. Like, what was Scott like growing up? Were you always interested in this type of stuff, or?
No, I mean, so I ended up being interested, but probably for different reasons. So I was one of those people that didn't have first half of childhood normal. Their mum passed away, when I started high school. Dad remarried, so there was some elements of, family violence and stress and the things that you go through. But at the same time, as those teenage years, when you're trying to work out what sort of man you want to be. So during that time, I was the class clown. And so I suppose I've always been a relatively intelligent person, so school wasn't difficult. So I did my thing of rapport building and likability just by being that class clown. So that got me through a whole, I suppose, right through high school, like that stage. And then I think, like all of us, you start off with your life being a bit self-centered, and then events happen in your life for you to be other people centered. And, we're all in different parts of that growth and that journey. And so after Mum passed away, I was very, very self-centered. It was just all about me. So I was doing everything I could to say I was smarter than the people around me, stronger than the people around me. So I was doing all the right things, but all for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense. And that, I suppose, a bit of the foundation. But then when that happens and you stop and reflect, and I met, the woman that ended up being my wife.
And what age did you meet her?
So it was 8th of May, 1992. Like it was the day that we met. That was the first date. So I mean, from that date on, then even you reflect on things like the dynamic. She's got a very close dynamic, and so from that point of view, family were just lovely with me, and because of the way that you've been growing up, you go, why are you being like that?
Different, yeah.
This isn't, but non-trusting.
Yeah.
So you just think, hang on, this isn't right. This isn't, why are you guys weird like this? Is it some sort of cult family or something like that? But it's not. That's just normal family values. And so I think that was a real turning point for me, where I realised the sort of person that I wanted to be, and I wanted that to be normal, the connection, that safety. And so that's probably where I put things at the core of everything I do now, is I want people to feel safe and well. I think safety is the precursor to everything, to happiness, to self-actualization. And so everything I do personally and professionally is around that.
That's very interesting. And I've heard that before when people have said safety is the core of everything. Self-actualization and happiness. Let's dive into that, because the first time I heard it, it didn't make sense to me. And then I sort of dissected it a bit deeper and deeper. And I guess people can sort of look at it in different avenues. But how do you understand that? How do you understand that as a statement?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at even some of the business and management training and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we go through and you've got food and shelter and all those, but at the base level for that, safety and same as with trust, if you think from an organizational point of view, we want stability, safety, and trust. And that is repeat, dependable behavior. That's what trust is. So it's the same thing if you're a child, learning in that as well, and consistency, like with what you do. If you're in a workplace and knowing that you're in an environment where you feel valued, that your voice has meaning, all these things is all part of safety. So there's different elements of safety, but in the different forms of that, 100%, you can't even begin to understand what the best version of yourself can be until you have that element of stability and base to build upon. You need that consistency.
And I think even now, I guess with employers and, I guess HR, employers are seen as being more protected, or doing things to protect their staff more. From a mental health point of view, from safety and security, from providing support. Do you feel like you're getting more into that realm of working with small businesses, large businesses, medium-sized businesses to identify how they can support or how they can help their employees from threats as well?
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of work with a range of organisations, and I can share an article is going to come out on Monday that I've just put out that I'm going to say is not going to be popular with the business community.
Yeah.
And part of that is the big push for getting people back in the workplace and from the hybrid work environment, and everyone's saying about the reasons why. I've been very clear from being and dealing with leaders globally of all different sized organisations. Part of the reason they're doing that is leaders lack the communication capability to be able to connect, trust, and influence their people. So if they have them in front of them and they think if they're in the office next door, they can get better productivity out of them, they can do that. Where there's multiple other things. The thing is, because our leaders that haven't gone through and some haven't developed and continued those skills, there's a range of things they can do to better connect with their teams, for them to have that safe, trusting environment to build those. And if you do that, then from there, likability, rapport, trust. I mean, it's the same. I look from a business point of view. Just because the business leaders of all sizes have a position, that's having the position, then permission to lead. You still need to influence those people and bring them along to the journey. And what's happening is now people are panicking and saying, I need you back in the workforce. But from my perspective, it's largely because they haven't got the capability and skills to be present, to connect with their people and influence them to get the outcomes that they need.
It is true, because my partner has just been told it's started from 1 day a week, go back to the office, then 2, 3. And there's so many, she tells me so many names and they go above my head. But it's like she hasn't met the general managers for years after directly reporting to them. And only now, since she started going back to work, started developing those relationships with those people, whereas before it was just someone that sends me work, someone that tells me what to do. So it is true in what you say in terms of that it needs to start happening again, because it just seems like it's just the workforce. There's no personal relationships.
People become job titles.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we say these things about having in, and so, we can have face-to-face meetings. You know what? As a leader, open up a Teams or a Zoom window and have it open all day. So the same open door policy that I have, let's do it here in the workforce. Pop in any time that you want to have a chat. But I mean, it's a range of things. I mean, I know we're going to talk about the behaviours and body language. Most leaders don't understand and don't know when they're speaking to people how to tell when they're interested. Like, you know, and so for these sort of things, I mean, when we talked about body language, Pat's interested. He leaned in and he already got more of a head tilt. He's showing more vulnerability, like with his neck. So you see that these things of interest.
I think he wants a kiss,
where,
but then
this is where we zoom in.
Yeah.
This is where you zoom into my neck. Let's dive into that. Let's dive into the behavioural.
because it is very important. I think like we're doing more with AI technologies. There's more. Everything's I guess technology focused, and that human interaction.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially for kids growing up. They're just in front of an iPad most of the time. They're not interacting. Like I don't have kids myself, but I know you're trying to get you're pretty good in terms of the way you bring up your kids, but there's others out there that are just glued to the iPad.
iPad's babysitting. They do that. And I mean, so that's it. From the communication point of view, things have become more difficult because the difference is we would communicate face to face where the kids are, does this message look all right before I send it?
Yeah.
So you're getting edited communication, but it's the same thing. Parents have got to be present. So I think it's the same thing, whether it's for personal relationships or professional. We all gravitate to calmness and balance. If you don't have that in your own life, you look for it in others. So that's why if you're a manager or leader, you need to be that calming, centering person. If you're a parent, you need to be the same thing. People need to feel noticed and valued, and they're not going to get that unless you're fully present as a parent, as a leader, as a co-worker. And so the same things like apply to that. It's just about from the communication point of view. It all starts with being present, and all the stuff we're going to talk about, like, for example, why Ben moves his head and his hands at the same time means he's a detail person. People who are detailed people like that. They like to drill down like you for things as well. The difference why Ben gestures with his left hand, a lot of time we're doing that at different angles compared to you symmetrically with things as well. If you're doing that, people will gravitate more to your words if you've got balanced gestures. There's so many things you can talk about from a behavioural point.
Well, let's go one by one. Let's go.
I've noticed him just looking at us while with the.
Well, this is why when I invited you onto the podcast,
Warren may have had a list on all of you.
That's good.
No,
It's
there you go.
Yeah.
First prepared.
Actually, let's go through the list. Let's start with Pat.
Someone's
Let's
coming
start
with
with
paper.
Pat.
Let's get into this. This is so freaking cool, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's okay.
Well, okay, we'll talk about.
Hit
Okay,
me.
so Pat so you see even for with the arms, like your point of view. So for communicating, same as on your social media as well, you'll take space. But the thing is, you're a sort of person. Space relates to confidence and comfort with a lot of people, but very much with you. When you have an element of discomfort, like the BNI photo, when you're next to people, your hands will go straight to your groin because you're covering up your power zone. We have 3 power zones: our chin, our belly button, and our groin. When we have nervousness or discomfort, we'll cover those. So for yours, you're a groin coverer when you have discomfort. So in that photo, when you're doing open, then as soon as you got to the group photo, your hands went straight to your groin and you closed
I just don't know what to do with my hands.
So even with hands, I mean, the hands tell us a lot. When someone, because people, you can pick a lot of these things up, whether it's online or face-to-face, but from the hands, when people are down and relaxed, I mean, you guys both like having pens in your hand. Any repeat physical element is a bit of a self-pacifying gesture of discomfort. So if you're something thinking about, I'm not sure where this is going to go with this interview or this meeting, whatever, that's why we like having pens and things in our hands. You know what I mean? That we do that. That's why I teach people with communicating.
What's the next episode or change after
I can't not. This is my go-to.
Because it's your habit.
Yeah.
That's why I got my wedding ring designed with the white gold and diamonds. It's a fidget ring. Because same thing, I've had the same thing. So that's so for you, like your part for your would be space. Ben, like you uses like your left hand gesture pattern like a lot as well, and so part of that is your hands are replicating your energy and your mouth's trying to catch up with your brain because you're being rapid thinking for with that. So for the tip or a pointer, I'd say part of the slower symmetrical gesture means people will focus more on your words because with some of the things when you're moving your hands around, people are also watching the hands. It's great for, and especially with what you do with the training and others, because that's people glom onto and jump onto your excitement, like as well. But yeah, I notice about that because with a lot of the interviews and other parts, you guys both both love your pens. The other part then I would say is, I said before about you got the power zones, so your chin, your belly button, and your groin. We've got an area called our ventral area, which is a line across your shoulders, and it goes a triangle down to your belly. We align this with honesty and integrity. So in other words, that's why all your politicians are communicating and speaking like this. They're also showing you the vulnerable areas with their wrist. You know what I mean? So what happens is when you're having a meeting with somebody or discomfort, so if there's a circumstance and when you talk about some elements and things about family, which is something that I know that you want to share about, and I've seen on some of your socials, I love what you say to your kids and what you tell them, the regular things and that as well. Great stuff. But some of the things when you talk about family values, you'll notice that you start doing a bit of a rocking and turning in that as well. It's a repeat physical element, which we know if it's not part of your baseline is a bit of self-pacifying, but you also reduce a bit of access to this ventral area. So for the people watching this that are doing business networking, it's exactly the same thing. When you're speaking with people, you've got to be open. Comfortable people own the space around them. Dominant people will take yours. Now we go into meetings, all these things are interviews, and like Ron does sometimes when I start pointing out his body language, his shoulders will come forward and he's lean forward.
Yeah, because
that's him. So part of it is subconsciously, that's the brain saying, we've got a bit of discomfort here, so we close up. So any of the behavior stuff is about fake it till you become it. Take and own the space around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool.
You can hack your brain that way because your brain goes, you're making me have space and own this space. We must be feeling okay. So it's things like that. There'll be more as we talk about other stuff.
Cool.
It's really interesting. You could continue talking.
We're going to keep
about
staring at each other in the corner.
I'm looking for signs. I'm looking for signs. When you're talking to people, do you do your own head in, like thinking, like analysing the person, or are you sort of present in the moment?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm very present. Early on, the more that I'd learn more of these things, it would take some conscious awareness and cognitive load, because some of the things we pick up are things like blink rate. We blink 12 to 14 blinks a minute. If you're stressed and discomfort or deceptive behavior, your blink rate spikes. If you're relaxed, interested, or you find the person you're looking at attractive, your blink rate slows down. So when you're looking at hands, feet, body, blink rate, all these sort of things, you're taking a lot. Now, because I've been doing so much of it and doing it, now I can do it as we're doing this, having a conversation, just looking for the change behaviors. But it definitely takes some time. But just having some awareness, I mean, I'm a very firm believer we should all be scholars in human behavior, because whether it's that personal connection, whether it's about from a safety and awareness point of view, we spoke about that spatial awareness, or whether it's leading and influencing people, unless you're fully present, even in the shoplifting space, people with good intentions want to be noticed, people with bad intentions don't. All of this starts with connection. And for some reason, we're just not spending enough time and energy on it.
Well, I think it can be put into all our industries, right? Like you've got a lot of young people that work at your the paint shop, right? You'd have a lot of tradies coming in wanting to, be the first. They might be third in line, but come in there, put their hands on, try and
Dominance.
Yeah, get all the attention. For me, it's about identifying, a client coming in. What do they want in financial advice? Finding their goals and objectives. Are they comfortable with what I'm saying? Are they not comfortable? With Pat, going out, quoting a client, are they going to pay it, or are you going to walk out the door and you're never going to hear from them again? So identifying all those trigger points is very crucial in all our industries, because we try to go more digital and we try to do everything and streamline. We try to streamline as we go, but at the end of the day, it's about that human connection. And it's easy to forget that as you get more employees, as you get more technology in your business, because you're kind of moving away from that in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I look at things slightly different with the roles and that as well. I think that from an electrical point of view, you're coming into people's homes and residences, that's a high level of trust for anybody, you know what I mean? For yourself and with what you're doing with the physical training, people are sharing with you their goals and aspirations and personal moments. Here's the reasons why I'm doing this. And if you can connect and understand that as well, you can better align the outcomes with their objectives. You can better help motivate them towards that goal. And from the financial point of view, from a privacy and trust, so, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, any of the roles that we have, there is no such thing as business to business or business, look at the consumer anymore. It's person to person.
Yeah.
Regardless of the role, regardless of the industry. People will buy more from people that they like. So you need to have skills in any of these roles to turn rapport into likability and trust.
Yep, powerful.
And do you yourself go out to businesses and I guess train staff in terms of that behavioural one? Like let's just use Ben's shop as an example of that. How would you work with someone or a team in a retail space in order to identify the shoplifting side of things, in order to identify how to deal with a customer that becomes too aggressive, or identify what could be a threat to the shop?
Yeah, I mean, so something is going to start with connection. People with good intent want to be noticed. People with bad intent don't. So how do we do that? Well, definitely every person coming in needs to be that smile, meet and greet, but that genuine, effortless smile. And you can hack the smile. 80% of the smiles we see each day are completely fake. There's no motivation. There's no activation of the two muscles around the eyes. They're completely fake. There's a thing that we teach, which is called the eyebrow flash, which is looking and going, hey, how are you? See how you smile back straight away? You can't help yourself. It's because an eyebrow flash is subconscious for all of us, regardless of culture, regardless of area. I know you. I recognize you. You're not foreign to me. So just adding that to the smile when we do that, people go, oh, that person's really noticed me. So whether it's picking shoplifters or for customer service, people with good intent are going to go, that person's noticed me. I feel valued. People with bad intent for shoplifting are going to go, I've been noticed. Let's go somewhere else. You need to tie in all the other stuff, the lighting, the electronic and everything, which I know like is a lot of your space as well. But that's the first part. The other thing is when you're picking up signs of aggression or shoplifting, people with bad intent leak physiological changes because the brain knows what it knows. It knows I'm here with bad intent for antisocial crime, for theft, for violence. So it leaks physiological changes. So you can pick those up. People who are going to shoplift will move their arms 12 to 15% less than others because they're trying to blend in. So by doing that, they control their behaviors when they don't stand out. So you can pick their behaviors. But when I speak to retailers and say, what does normal look like? If somebody's coming in and know what they're after, what are they going to walk like? What's their walking cadence? What's their actions? They've never stopped to look. Now, as soon as they look, you can tell even the people that shoplift, because once they have the item, they walk even faster back on what they're doing, and they're people-centric with their vision, not product-centric. So there's things like that. But then the other thing, if you're present for communication and conflict, and this is whether it's retail or healthcare or security and entertainment environments, whatever, it's the same thing. If people are going from stress to frustration to aggression, there's indicators, there's tells. First one can be breathing location. We're relaxed now, so we're breathing in our diaphragm. If there was stress and anxiety here, your breathing location goes higher and you start breathing shorter, sharp breath through the chest. You're oxygenating yourself for what's about to come. You'd see that with the boxing and training like you with people for things as well. And all these other tells, like your clenching of the jaw, tightening of the lead shoulder, blading of feet, there's so many other indicators. So we teach people these things so that way during the time, just because you see all these things all of a sudden from behavior doesn't mean you need to call it out. Because me saying, oh, Ron, I can see I've made you uncomfortable there. Oh, why? What do you mean? It's not that. But let's just say in your working life, you're going through something with somebody and you see they're going through a document, all of a sudden you see them squint and they start rubbing their arm for a second as well. That's a self-pacifying gesture. That means whatever they've read of this area has caused them stress and discomfort. Now, if you say, oh, I can see that's made you uncomfortable. Oh, no, it's all right. You're going to jolt them. But rather you turn around midway through the conversation and say, you know what, I don't think I've spent enough time on this. Do you mind if I take you a bit more through this section? That's the outcome that they want, that their body language is showing you, and you can pick that behavior. So it's the same thing in any environment, whether you're picking up people with bad or good intent, it's being present and looking for the behavior deviations. But it's always got to be underpinned by keeping yourself safe.
So when you're learning about how to better understand the behavior of a client, it's more in the intention of serving them at a higher level.
Yeah.
That's how I've summarized that. That's how I've just understood what you said, which is really, really freaking cool. Well, it is just understanding different behaviors and different body language, and
because you need to react
patterns
in the right way.
And what he said is incredible. Like if you've picked up on a behavior that you've noticed of the other person you're sitting next to and you've mentioned it, they're going to jolt, they're going to react, and they're going to be like, oh, no, I didn't do that, whatever. But if you address it in a different way where you can sort of
it's about how it's training the person to react to those signs.
And
we're responding to it.
And the thing is, so this is really depending on who's listening on how far you want to go with this. You can take it a whole nother level. So I do look at it with a behavioral lens to a person's digital footprint. So the things I've shared with you about body language, that's before we've sat in the room together. If I came in and I wanted to do these things and build rapport with you, I know that as part of the conversations, when there's something that Ben's confident about, he will use the words "you know," which is what we say part of assuming language, I think, as well. So knowing about the fact that he likes to hold the pen in his left hand and these sort of things, if I mimic things like if we're sitting opposite a table and I'm mirroring his head tilt, holding the same pen, like the same hand and same gestures, then 2 or 3 minutes in the conversation, he's going to go, you know what, there's just something about this guy I like. Of course it is. I've borrowed your personality. And so it starts from rapport building and even sales conversion when I'm doing these with some clients. I get some clients that say to me, I'm going to pay you this money. I need this person to buy off me and look and to trust me. So I literally go through the whole lot and I'll say, you need to approach them on the left-hand side with these gestures, using these words. I go through their LinkedIn and their Facebook. Are they self or team pronoun users? And you adjust. And what I mean by that is, let's just say, Ron, you got a new job. And I say, oh, how's a new job? And you go, I love it here. I'm really able to achieve things. I'm feeling really supported. Notice it's I. That's a self pronoun user, or I call them an optometrist, an eye specialist. And we turn the other way around and I say, like, yeah, Pat, how's the new job going? Oh, we're going to achieve such great things together. We've got a really supportive team, really good network. If one of us has a bad day, we back each other up. That's a team's pronoun user. So I pick up even things like that, words from their own personal dictionary, how they use pronouns, what gestures. And I tell people that. So before they're sitting across the table with a prospective client, they're echoing their speaking cadence, some of their own words, their gestures, and the client just goes, I just feel comfortable with you.
But how much do you go into that where a person might realize what you're doing?
Good point.
His conversion rate would be so great.
Yeah.
If I ran some cursory numbers over where it's been for about the last 7 years taking this sort of approach, it's just over 90 mil worth of business I've got for clients working with that type of approach. So the thing is, it's finding that level, but passing on the skills. And so that way it's things like if you see 3 things, mirror 2.
Yeah.
Because you need to have that balance in it as well. The other part is from that trust and rapport that you get. You'll see when you're doing these things. So let's just say if I was doing the same thing with yourself, with the way that you're taking space and the head tilt and everything, I would then change and I would actually do a different part, like rub my arm or whatever a couple of times. And you'll see once you've built that rapport, like that trust, because the mirror neurons, they'll do the same back. And as soon as I see you mirroring something I've deliberately put in, I've got you on
Got him. Yeah.
Scott, how do you educate yourself on all this? Like, how over the years have you picked up this information?
Yeah, so I mean, you said before about starting early, and there was a book, and somebody I've been lucky he's communicated with me a couple of times on social media now. Alan Pease is probably one of the founders of Body Language, and so I read Alan's books when I was still looking in high school. So Alan's now has commented on some of my reviews of different debates, which for me is great.
That's pretty cool.
So I did that for a while, and then the behavior part, the reason why I started was because I try and stay ahead of the trends, and I saw that there's an increase in edge weapons and terrorism and all these sort of things. And I thought these people will all show behavioral elements before they take these actions. So if I can be at the forefront of picking those things up and say to people, that person's got bad intent for violence and aggression, it ties to who I am. I can keep people safe. You find something and you just think all of a sudden it's something you've got some natural skill and affinity for. And what do they say? Ikigai, something you're good at that you can get paid for, that the world needs, whatever. And I think it's something that I already would do a lot of those items. So when I started training, I found that I had a good affinity and it would validate. Then it was trying to find the right people to train with. And I've got to say that was the hardest part because aside from Alan, everybody else is overseas. Mm-hmm. So I did a program, Joe Navarro, who was from the FBI Behaviour Unit, I did his master body language program, which I think had 18 units on the feet. Even things down to the point if somebody's sitting over there on their own mobile phone, if they get good news, their toes will start turning up. Down to that sort of level.
Yeah.
Then from there, from Joe, I did some training one-on-one with Lena Cisco, who was a former interrogator with Guantanamo Bay after September 11, on how to get information without asking questions. Then I did Paul Ekman's work on facial microexpressions and stuff with Chase Hughes. Then statement of word analysis, why we pick the words that we do. But I'm still learning now.
But was that more from a security point of view, which you've molded into the behavioral side of things from a human interaction point of view? Or did it start off with wanting to know more about the human?
Yeah, it started from the security point of view, but then when I started getting into things like the statement of word analysis, then it really clicked with me. And as I was doing some things, I had people say, "Oh, could solicitors be using this for getting information and finding out?" And then I had police speaking to me saying, for some of our interviews and things, can you use these techniques? So then it's like the penny dropped. And so now all of a sudden, then I thought, okay, so I'm going to run a couple, and I did them for free just to get some feedback. And you'd see I was advertising them locally for things. I'm going to run on deception detection or behavioural-based recruiting. And touch wood, every one of those just became a winner. People we'd never thought of taking this approach. I mean, from the interviewing point of view, looking for things when people change their speaking cadence and words. I've had interview panels that I've been brought on, and it's been the third interview. So they've done 2 interviews already, and this is the third panel. And I've asked them a question where I've looked at their CV, and I've said something as simple as, from the qualifications, I'm looking forward to discussing your qualifications journey. So I'm not even making a question. But as soon as I saw that, I saw the person lick their lips a bit and touch this part of their face. So just so you know when your wife called to find how to know if you're lying.
Put your hands in your pocket. Don't move. Say nothing.
When people have deceptive behavior, it releases cortisol, the stress hormone that you probably know from training, cortisol as well. What happens is absorbed throughout the body, but not in the face. And so that's why when people lie or under severe stress, they touch this part of their face because it's the cortisol still reacting in their skin. It slows down their saliva production, so they lick their lips more and all these sort of things. So I saw that. So straight away I knew there's a flag here around the qualifications. But remember I said, just because you see something, you don't call it out. So straight away I could have said, what's the go with those? You've obviously shown some bad behavior there. I wanted to validate. So we took the conversation to somewhere else, and then I loop back and say, we didn't get to about your qualifications. We'll come to that shortly. And I saw the same tells.
Yeah.
So when we got to the qualifications, I said, okay, so share with us your journey with the qualifications, because obviously a key part for this role. As soon as the person said, oh, I started the qualification in whenever, so it's not I finished or whatever. If people say I started or I decided to do, and not saying when I completed it, which is the most important moment, there was already a flag in there. But her speaking cadence changed, it was sped up rapidly. So it might be, to give you an example, something as simple as, let's just say you were hiring me for a data center role. Tell me your background, Scott. Oh, I spent 12 months in Google, a really good organization there. Then I spent 6 months in Amazon. Then after that, I went to see just that change in speaking cadence. People do that because they don't want to talk about that area.
Yeah.
So they will rapidly change their speaking cadence, the inflections of their words and things. And leaders and managers just don't pick these things up. Now, if that's at the same time that all of a sudden I'm doing the other pacifying gestures, my body is telling you there's discomfort around this area, but we just take things at face value and keep rolling.
So this is great for someone that's looking at their next hire, right?
Yep.
If you're looking at interviewing, these are the skills that you should probably be taking away, or not the skills, but how to react to certain signs that someone is putting out there.
But is that always 100% of the time? When you're having a conversation with someone and they might have an itchy arm or they might have an itchy face.
They might have shingles.
Perfect question.
Is it 100% of the time that a body language response or reaction, whatever it is, means that something is going on internally?
So we look for getting what their baseline is. And their baseline you get in the first 60 to 90 seconds. After that, we look for deviations. So if it's because they've got shingles or whatever, then that's going to be part of their regular baseline. Or you think, people that have the jumpy leg.
That's me. I always do.
I know, that's why.
Yeah.
You did that in the cafe when we met.
And when I'm negotiating something, like I always find that I shake. And I was negotiating the podcast.
So if they're shaking their leg in the first
the table was moving
90 seconds, to if they start shaking their leg at a certain point in a conversation, is that
yeah. So someone like Ron, for example, because that's been part of his baseline with the leg. If I ask him something and give him some discomfort or stress, then there'll still be a change. It could be that the leg might go side to side rather than just up and down or whatever, but there's still going to be a deviation. So in answer to your question, we get somebody's baseline in the first 60 to 90 seconds when they're comfortable and relaxed. So I do multiple things for that. Depends on how much you really want to drill down on this. We all have different eye reference points because of the different memory we have. I need to share that before I share this next story. So in other words, we've got episodic and semantic memory. Episodic memory is something you've experienced, you know what I mean? Semantic is something you know. So when I get people coming in for an interview, I want to speak to them in a relaxed thing we're going to talk about for a while. I'll say something like as in, oh, did you find the place okay? Where'd you park from here? Now what will happen is they'll say, oh yeah, caught the train in, nice relaxed thing. But they'll say, oh, so where are you from here? Oh, they're just at the train station. And they'll see, and their eye will go to a point where they're thinking from here, which way? I now know where your eye reference point is for something you've experienced. So later on in the interview, when I'm speaking to you about a position or something that you're saying that you've done, and you're trying to think of that, if your eyes go to a different point, you're creating part of what you're telling me.
Really?
Yeah.
And would that be 100% of the time?
It's an indicator. So we see indicators of discomfort. So you've always got to think, what else? So in other words, all of a sudden, if we're sitting here and I fold my arms like this, Is it the fact that it's something you've said I don't want to share, or is it the fact that it's cold in here, or is it the fact I trained yesterday at the gym? That's why you've always got to think, what else? What's driving that behaviour? So that's why
a couple
we'll
of elements
circle and
kind of
loop
put
back.
together.
Yeah, and we look for clusters. So strong discomfort and especially deception, there's different clusters. So you'll see the lip licking, blink rate, whatever, plus these others, and you'll see some changes in their speaking cadence or their inflection. So there's multiple parts to pick up.
My father used to say that if you were talking to a man and he looked to the left while he was talking, he's lying. Is that true?
It used to be, and there used to be an old NLP program in these sort of things. So I know there's a lot of training that says set things. If you're looking here, then there's deceptive part. From my point of view, no, everyone has different parts. I've had people that I've gone through that have the same eye reference point for the two memory types, exactly the same. So everyone has different elements, okay, and that's why you need to have that nice, calm environment, be present, you know. So you're thinking that employee, or during that interview, you've asked something from an integrity point of view, and they're obviously going to want to answer the best way that they can. But if you see all these discomfort things, you're not going to pick any of those up if you ask the question and now you're looking down, taking notes or typing notes. And sadly, that's what happens with business and managers.
Yeah.
We've got our own agenda and our own points. So, I mean, the simple thing, know your shit up front. So when you're having interactions, whether it's sales, whether it's team meetings, whether it's recruitment, be fully present and connected with the person.
Yeah.
That's how you get better connection. They feel valued, and you get to see the impact of your words and their changes.
Love that.
Especially with like Chat GPT out there, you know, writing resumes. I think you were talking about it before. It's not just stopping at the resume now. It's the person that's going for the interview using Chat GPT
Yep.
on the interviewer, potentially.
They'll take details from who am I meeting from the interviewing, and they'll get details of their LinkedIn, and they'll be saying to ChatGPT, what questions am I going to get asked by a 32-year-old recruiter with 17 years hospitality experience, whatever, for this role, and put the details in.
Because I think you can also plug in, like, if there's video content or just any information, and then Chat GPT will start saying,
Populating the answer.
the questions or the question style that they'll answer, and how you should be answering it in a language that they're comfortable with.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, AI, whilst there's some great elements of it as well, it doesn't do emotion yet. And so some of these questions as well, and I mean, same thing if you're a leader and go for key positions, I want people who have some self-awareness, some self-awareness and emotional intelligence. So the questions of, share with me a moment that you overreacted in the last 5 years. We've all had them as adults, where I've been angry at this person or I felt that this way, but people are going to come in and say, oh no, I can't think of one. That just means they're not in touch with who they are, and there's somebody who's not going to be in a high stress situation, going to be open and vulnerable.
So do you think we should be changing the questions from, whether it be my standard questions for someone that I'm looking at as a financial planning assistant?
Yep.
Should I be changing the way I ask my questions, or adding different questions where it can't be Chat GPT answering it?
Yeah, there should definitely be some elements like you put in there where you're getting to the heart of person and their values. I mean, with how much it costs to replace people, like with businesses nowadays, and the flow-on effect from organizational culture, you've got to have the right person. You're bringing them into the fold. And so, you need to be checking things about their values, about how they're going to go when they're squeezed a bit, for these sort of things. So asking those sort of questions. Plus, you've always got to ask the ones that are out of left field that make them think.
Yeah.
I'll ask you now, Ron. If there was going to be an eighth dwarf and you're going to be eighth dwarf, what would you be called?
Short black.
He's thought about that answer. You've been asked that before.
Yeah, he wouldn't ask before.
When I got a job at MLC, they said, draw a picture of something that represents you. So I just do a coffee cup and put short black on it. Short and sweet.
That works.
God. Scott, I noticed something in the way I'd communicate and speak to my team and speak to people when I feel like I'm in influential moments. And I noticed that I mimic the way that I've done a lot of work in the personal and business development world, and the person that we've signed up to these business courses with and sort of worked with over the years, I love and respect and learnt so much of him. And I found that when I have conversations with people in business or people in my team, whether it's business or elsewhere, I mimic the same way of conversating, which is hard and fast.
Yeah. And
What do you say to that?
well, I mean,
Is that authentic? Is it me just trying to sort of be someone else, or is it because
Well, I feel like you can
deliver?
tell the training program you're in by the way you talk during that period of time.
What do you mean?
Like you can tell when you've kind of gone through a Kerwin Ray program or
or
done
Tony Robbins program.
Yeah, you
I
can
haven't done a
tell.
Tony Robbins, but
But you can tell when you've come out of a training program because your conversation does change in the way you speak.
you're a lot more motivated.
Yeah, 100%. But I think your style does replicate
Yes,
the person.
yeah, 100%.
That you're getting mentored from, and that might be normal.
That's
normal?
natural.
That's normal.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at things, I know we've all heard the saying, you're the product of the 6 people you spend the most time with. I'm slightly different than that. I believe in, osmosis, that you take things, you're the product of what you immerse yourself in. So what you read, what you hear, the people you deal with, all these sort of things. So if that's something you're spending time and energy on, that's part of what you're absorbing. And if you think if that person has some elements or attributes that you aspire to be, it's only natural to be doing that. The thing is, everyone's got to find their own style for communication and impact. And if you think some of the best communicators in the world that they've ever been, Winston Churchill, he spoke at 138 words per minute. Tony Robbins speaks at 204. Very different style, but people both have impact. Me, I'm between 165 and 170, pretty much on the clock. Because I normally 185 and like a 90, but had to train myself to get my tone right, to get my speaking cadence right, because that's where my words will have impact. So you've got to find what's right for you. There'll be elements about that. And the thing is, the funny thing will be when you listen and play this back, because during that time you were thinking about some of the coaches that you had, your speaking cadence went up. So you spoke faster during that time. So the person you've learnt from and doing that is somebody that obviously has like a faster speaking cadence than you. So that's part of what we do from a behavioural point of view. We learn to speak from listening to mum and dad, from watching TV. Where did I focus on getting more impact with my words? Aside from the statement of word analysis training, I downloaded Barack Obama's best speeches and just listened to them over and over. Because we make some really easy mistakes to fix.
Yeah.
We end our sentences with an upward inflection. And when we do that, we lose confidence straight away. So being able to end our sentences with a downward inflection, how to find the tone where you speak, which is that calming and centered tone. And there's simple things with that. I mean, I teach people this in class. Put your hand over your chest and say the word 99 with a downward inflection, 99. You will feel, you can do that now. Put your hand over your chest and say the word 99.
99.
99.
Now, halfway through the 9, you'll start to feel some vibration in your chest. Right on that spot is where your calm, authoritative tone is. That is where your words are going to have the best impact. And it's different for everybody, the tone that you do that. So adjusting your speaking cadence, when to use pauses, the intonation of your words, all that is different from everybody. Then you build the non-verbals around it, but it's on the same thing. Confident people take space, take and own the space around you. So if you can tweak those things, whether it's recruitment, whether it's sales, whatever, it's the same thing I said to you before. People gravitate to calmness and that as well. Yeah. It's the same in sales clients. So if I'm mirroring the body language and these things, and someone goes, I feel comfortable with you, it's easier to speed that up from rapport to calm, and that calm-centered element to trust. People buy from who they like as well. So if you're having that and you're that calming presence, I want to deal with you. Yeah. So
now you say that's what I know you've done some commentary around elections, the US elections, and you say about the calming nature, but if we look at what's happening in the elections, there are two sides to the elections where you wouldn't say Trump's calm and that, right? There's a totally different thing that's appealing to such a broad base.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, part of you're going to think his appeal, but if you think from a communication point of view, Trump has got some classic body language, non-verbal elements. So I think pre-election, when he was having the recent trial, he came out after day one from court and showed a whole range of body language tells during the time that, well, firstly, and I've got to say, Ron, you do some of this too, he's what we call a fish catcher. When he's talking about something that's important to him, his hands are out here. Yeah. When it's something not as important, his hands come in smaller. I watch some of your videos, you do the same thing. Yeah. So you see him saying about, I'm in here with this court case when really I should be out like you're leading the country. So his hands are showing. When did he show the other parts? When they said about, we were talking about with an invoice and document. So as soon as he said that, I think from memory he touched that part of his face, but his blink rate spiked and all these other indicators. So as soon as I saw that, the people I was with, I said, not only is he going to lose this case, it's going to be about the invoice and paper trail where it was going to be, exactly like where it was.
Yeah.
Now
they're the documents in the bathroom.
Yeah. And so you think then the other part now with the presidential debate, there was a range of things in there. He's good from the confidence display, but he relies on that from that confidence. So you saw with the last presidential debate, Harris went across, and even when he deviated, closed his space, shook hands over his space, and positioned even with a shoulder roll, so he couldn't do the over the handshake.
Which it usually pulls you in.
So every single element of there, before things had started, she had controlled like an own space.
Did you see her before the debate? Because she seemed to perform really well. Seemed like there was a lot of behavioural
And
elements.
funny enough, I've had 15 messages already this morning. I haven't had a chance yet, but apparently there must have been a grand final breakfast and the two coaches met. And so during the time from the grand final coach, apparently Cleary has done like a similar thing. So I've had all these people saying, let me know with this video who's feeling more confident.
Go on
Mate,
sports bet.
I get some weird ones.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm interested. You're a father of two.
Yep.
Boy and a girl, pigeon pair.
Yep.
What's it like being Scott and being a father? You know, like what's your approach there with the kids? Like having this vast, intellect. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, well, first from the values point of view, because of other things you think about, what you, even before you knew about who I wanted to be as a father, what you don't want them to have an experience. And so elements, I think that's just like the starting point. So one of the things I know that I wanted is for them to have that, that very close bond. And that's why we talked about it before. It's probably what I'm most proud of. If something good or bad happens to them, they're the first to call each other before us, which is what we want. That bond. The approach, because I've got an addictive personality. You see when anyone sees my car or my gym, whatever. So I can't half do something. So it was the same with some things with the kids. So I went, and you may have heard of Mensa. So the top 2% of IQ in the world. Anyway, I made it like into Mensa, and straight away I was okay. What do I find about what I can do with my kids? So I was reading all the gifted and talented things with the kids. So as soon as the kids were doing stuff, we're doing memory games. We're doing fine motor skill stuff with the kids. So these poor kids, while we're making them games, in my mind is, you guys are going to be successful, or at least I'm going to do everything I possibly can to give you the best opportunities to do what you want.
Yeah.
So similar to, I was saying earlier on that I was doing all the right things for the wrong reasons earlier. I think there were some other parts where I'd be doing the same thing and think, you know what, the kids need to take their own path. And so I get to a point with that where I just realize then that I just need to make sure that they have all the love, support and confidence around them for them to be who they're going to be. And from that point of view, I think that a lot of that I got the values from who I want to be as a parent, like from my wife. She's one of these people who's just a natural, incredible mother, very giving, very thoughtful, very caring, that sort of stuff. So they had that part. And so from my point of view, look, you get the protective bits. We're doing security for 30 years. If you think any boy that was coming over to date my daughter, I had one time, as soon as the boy pulled up, I literally went out the front and walked around his car and said, you need to explain these dints for me because my daughter's about to get in the car with you. So I want to know what happened with this car. That's not the worst story.
Tell us the worst story. We want to hear the worst story.
The worst story was when there was a boy that was going to come over for dating my daughter. And so I'd organised with a friend of mine who is involved with the UFC. We were going to come through and do a gym workout session at the same time.
It's kind of like that movie where
Bad Boys.
they open the garage door.
And so literally you have somebody out there. So when this car's coming through, they can go through and just walk down the street and say to this car, hey, are you, mention the person's name and say, yeah. And they go, mate, fucking good luck. And so, of course, he then pulls up at the front and I'm sitting at the front, post-workout, doing the party pump flex and these things coming in. So, hey, if you can shake hands and do that after that, that's a good start.
Yeah. How old are the kids now, Scott?
26 and 22.
Nice.
And so, but the thing is, both been very, very successful. They got the scholarship for high school and things, but then found their own paths, very, very different. But the good thing is, same thing, the feedback from where they are is that everyone's saying they're good, balanced, confident kids. And that's the thing. It's finding that point with what you need for them, for their own style, for them to feel, same thing, safe and comfortable, because then they can take some controlled risks. They can find their own path. They know that you've always got mum and dad and home and these things there. So spread your wings a bit. Find the you that you want to be.
Love that.
But your passion is not just for your kids, because I know the way I met you was through MacArthur Boys, which was, I think, the first year of me starting business, of starting an organisation or I guess a group to help underprivileged children or those that might be going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. And I know it's probably not around at the moment, but it did help a lot of youth at the time.
Yeah, so I suppose saying that self-reflection thing again, thinking, it was hard for me when I was going through that time of my life. I wanted to change and be better to find positive role models. So I saw a photo from overseas, and it was the person, and this guy didn't have much. He literally had just bought 6 or 7 suit jackets and 6 or 7 ties, and he would meet with these kids once a week and just talk about values, and you'd see these kids all in the suits and ties. And I thought, I've got some business and leadership skills and other things in that as well, and a good network. What really impact could we have? So then I stopped and thought about it and said, the hardest thing for teenagers and young men is having that safe space to do that. So that's when I thought, and I spoke to, and Gledswood was fantastic, the dean from Gledswood. She said, you know what, have my place, have it come out once a week, once a fortnight, any area you want. So literally she gave us the kitchen, the function rooms, whatever. And so we reached out and to a couple of different people, and Ron, you jumped straight on board, which was great. But what we'd have different times was we had a chef come and teach them how to make chicken cordon bleu. So you got all these young men that don't have really a social life, close friends group or whatever, and they're in the kitchen where the chefs teach them stuff and they're doing stuff. And while they're there, we're speaking about respectful relationships and goal setting and, how to be like a good balanced person and stuff. We got a mechanic come to put a car up on blocks. And while they're doing that, doing the same sort of thing, you spoke to them about, financial safety and stability and all these sort of things.
Saving pocket money, little things that they can kind of do just to help with that education and and learn about these things.
The other thing, then once a year we do a thing for first aid where I spoke to my connections in first aid and say, look, it's not going to cost anything. Come through, we're going to teach you first aid skills. And I think the biggest one we had was like 60, young teenage men come and learn CPR, bandaging or whatever, and that as well, and something cost them nothing. So, the end point for that was, I had some parents call me, and I think I knew the impact for me, but I was more thinking just from the child point of view, thinking what I wanted to have some access to that. There was some times that I had some parents call me or stay back, and one mum in tears, and, what was it? She goes, you don't understand, him working in the kitchen and working with another boy and even chatting would just be, he doesn't speak to anybody like things in school. So then I started really understanding as well, it's also to help give the parents some skills to how to create that risk-free space. So it's something I'm really proud of what we're able to do in the impact, and I still see every now and then some people around for that. But then post then the opportunity came up for me to be the founding chairperson of Blue In House Camden Women's Shelter. So in the homeless and domestic violence. So for 4 and a bit years I was doing that.
Yeah.
So
Scott, you were on TV numerous times all across Australia. You've been on TV in America, and you've been interviewed a lot around the space that you're in. You've been questioned right after the Bondi stabbing. You've been questioned and sort of asked to talk about
Lint Cafe.
Yeah, the Lint Cafe, the Waverley situation with the bishop getting stabbed. Now, I can only imagine the stories and the situations that you've been in the past, and the interesting things that you could have come across. What are one or two stories?
Tell some more stories.
Yeah, stories that really stand out to you, or something that just you tell someone and they're like, "What the fuck?" That's
So one of the ones, and my wife and I spoke about this again not long ago. One of probably the worst situations that could have really escalated it did escalate, but from a personal safety point of view, and it was a 16th birthday party. I got a call, and it was a party at Bankstown, and being a manager with this company I was working, and they said, we just want to get security for a 16th birthday party. So no problems. Look, but you're calling on a Friday afternoon. If it's Friday night, you got myself and one of the managers and say, we're not going to be cheap. They go, that's fine, no problems. So at that stage, this is, I'm going to say I'd probably been in the industry 7 or 8 years. So this is a while ago. I should have gelled then. I know now if people are paying last minute and willing to pay higher money, there's a risk profile attached to this event.
Yeah.
Didn't think that. So, of course, no problems. So anyway, where the house was, we got down to meet the parents. Parents were lovely. No problems. Here you go. Here's money up front. Everything, all done. Thinking, it's fine. Looking at some of the people inside the party thinking, well, a couple of unsavory characters, but, hey, it's a 16th. It doesn't matter. The build of the house, which will become important as this discussion evolves, it was like a double brick house, and they had a double brick fence. So there was a gap which was 2 people wide between the house and the fence to get into the backyard. So what happens after this party's going for a while? We're standing here at this bit with the fence. Anyway, all these cars start pulling up out the front. And some person comes down and the daughter comes out and she's running out saying, no, you can't come in. And then what happens, they say, we need to share something with you. The daughter is the girlfriend of, I think it was that boy at the time, the Bass Hill Boys. And the people out front are the Chester Hill, whatever gang in that as well. And they all want to come into the party. and they're not coming in. So at that stage, you're going, yeah, look, it's all right, still being 16. I know there's 7, 18-year-olds, but, you feel pretty staunch. Like,
Yeah.
What are these guys going to do? 30 seconds later, the first full beer bottle went straight through the window of the front house. And so these then, the people at the front are throwing full beer bottles, whatever, and then en masse came through to try and get to the back of the house. Myself and the other guard that were working, it was one of those ones that you do a lot of training and a range of other things, and I'm just going to say I can't really even explain what happened. It escalated to the point that there was glasses, a whole range of things, and the only thing that during that time I actually grabbed the top of a Weber barbecue, and I was using the top of a Weber barbecue to defend myself. Somehow we came through while it was a massive, police were called, police didn't turn up, didn't want to turn up. They came an hour later and whatever else came out. It was one of those nights finished completely covered in blood and whatever, and it was a horrific circumstance where people are jumping over the fence and we're literally grabbing them and throwing them into the bins just to hold them for a couple of seconds to get to the next one. It was a horrific circumstance. I came out with that scratch on myself, and from during that time, and I'm not in any way a religious person, whatever. I'm handy, but not anything from that point of view. It was just one of those ones that myself and the person who was working that night literally were just back to back from a survival point of view, and it just shows you, I suppose, what can happen when your body gets into that primal survival state. But it also gives me the lessons of, doesn't matter if it's a 16th birthday party, whether it's a corporate event, whether it's a mass gathering event, is every gathering has its own risk profile, and you need to do your homework to see what that is, because it could have been so much worse. I came home, because I remember after that I stopped at a pub on the way home and put $50 in the pokies and got the link. So I think I got $1,000 something. So I came home at that time, my wife, and said, wake up. I need to tell you everything that's happened. So you get those things. But then you get, other events. I've had things where I've run a training session at a registered club for a young lady that's in a management position, and 12 months I came back, and as soon as for doing another session, this person come running up to me and says, 2 weeks ago we had this occur with someone who's a very aggressive offender, and the police came and said he's violent wherever he was. The training that you gave me, I picked up all these signs for it. So we did this from a resourcing point of view and disengagement and everything, and everybody came out safe. There is no way that it would have happened. We would have been injured if we didn't follow the tips that you said.
It's got to be fulfilling, and you have to be proud of that you can sort of help. I mean, I'm in the martial arts space, so that makes me warm and fuzzy. We teach people to be safe, right? And it's such a big part of what we do, I'm trying to help little Johnny have confidence to go to school and not be picked on or bullied and control passively sometimes without resorting to violence, So if Johnny comes back to school and he's controlled the situation, it's a win for us, right?
And same thing, that awareness of self and space, your own rights and values and those sort of things, all starts with that, and that confidence as well. They can have these things, but unless you've given them the confidence to be able to, and self-confidence to be able to test and use that. So when you hear those stories, 100%.
Well, you security test some businesses, I think, without naming any names, like you mentioned that, especially with companies dealing with confidential information, large equipment or, stuff that can be stolen. Your position is something where, if you want to talk about a little bit more in terms of going into businesses and stress testing them.
Yeah, so we do a mix of, some government organisations and mass gathering events and stadiums, but also down to individual retailers. Some of the stuff we do is the pen testing, which is the ones that everyone finds the most interesting. We've done it for some banks as well. And so people say, we think we're safe and secure, can you come and test? There's all different ways to check that. You saying, for example, if you're safe and secure in business and saying, can you check if we're safe, might be from a data point of view. So I might have my team setting up 20 fake Facebook accounts, 20 fake LinkedIn accounts, messaging to one of your people, some being professionals, some being a girl wearing not much clothing. Whoever they respond back to, I'm going to keep that conversation going until I can get something compromising on you and saying, give me this person's details and finances, or everybody in your Facebook is going to get this photo you've just sent me with your shirt off. Yeah. That's one way you're checking if you're safe. The other part is...
And it truly is a threat, because there's emails that come like that all the time. Oh. You're not coming to me, but my staff.
I know, you spoke pretty confidently about that.
And I paid that $20,000 because I just wanted it to go away, all right?
Hey, mankini doesn't work for everybody. You know what I mean? So we get it. So there's that part, then there's the physical pen testing for things as well, so the behavioural elements. And sometimes, because organisations focus so much on customer service and engagement, they're the easiest ones to get into. Yep. Because if I open up my LinkedIn and say, okay, who's a HR person in here or someone in IT in here, I get a person's name. If I come in holding 3 coffees, I've got a person's name and I'm coming in at 10 minutes past 9 for a 9 o'clock meeting. If I walk around the door stressed and anxious and saying, I'm just meeting Rob and I know where I'm going, that person's stressed seeing me with 3 coffees saying, oh, you must be meeting somebody. You know Robin's name. Bang, you're in.
Yeah, and they're a lower level person. So if you look like someone in authority, holding those coffees, seeing someone else in authority, you don't want to be the person to stop something that's like above you.
Well, let me imagine if I'm going to one of Pat's sites. So, and Ron, if you're working for me, I save your number in my phone as being Pat. And I go through and saying, I've got to meet Pat like upstairs. I'm already in 10 minutes late. Next minute, my phone rings because I've told you to wait 5 minutes. I'm saying, this is Pat calling me now. Oh, I don't know. What's your name? Sorry, miss. Discomfort. They're going to let me in.
Yeah.
So behaviors. So we've got to, and that's why I say from a culture point of view, it's the same thing. Your team members need to feel valued and appreciated. So they've got some confidence and not having that fear of failure as well. They need to feel supported. So that way they can stop people like me getting in and know they're not going to get in trouble for it.
Even for my team, like we can throw money at cybersecurity, at IT support and everything, but it's just the emails are going to come all the time. So I'm always, if I see any emails, letting my team know, hey, these are the emails you should be looking out for. If you're unsure of anything, send it through or take a screenshot, send it to our IT because the threats are getting worse and worse and more.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, man, remember the days where it started where it was a Nigerian prince?
Yeah. That Nigerian prince was easy, right? Like now it's getting to the point
Turned
where
it into a monster.
everything could, like anything can be some type of scam or getting someone else's email, changing one letter of that and then changing the BSB and account number so you're transferring. So we're always, like whenever we're transferring money around, we're always getting the client to call up to confirm the BSB and account number or putting it in the email, sending a separate text message because in this day and age, everything can be taken.
Knowledge is power. You know, one of the easiest things that, we're great for securing our reception and our doors and all these other things. We don't secure our bins. We call it dumpster diving. I go to an organisation, that's the first spot I go to in the organisation. I go out the back to your bin. If I pull your electricity bill or your internet bill, I'm now calling up, hey, Nancy, and I see you're with which organisation, might be IINet, here's your account number or whatever. Hey, look, it's John calling like from IINet. Like,
it's 3-point security.
And I see that you've got account number here. Oh, if you want from a credibility or verify, your account number is 107, so whatever else. Need to speak to you about your plan, the account you're going for. Can we change that? And here's reaccrediting it. Now, this person who's a helpful employee goes, oh, they've said IINet. Oh, look, they've even got an account number. Must be them because they know who are. No, I've just grabbed it out of your bin at the back. So the awareness point of view is, when we
and it could be just saying something like, oh, do you want to change your plan? We've noticed that you can take $200 off a month. Do you want to give me your credit card to get those details?
100%.
All of a sudden they think they're saving $200 for their employer or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they've just given away the credit card details.
The two simplest things for me are the bin, and the other one is if I walk around the back of your premises and I see that there's a brick and a couple of cigarette butts around somewhere near a fire exit or anything like that. I know at 10:30, lunchtime and 2:30, people are coming out. I just need to make friends with the first person as quick as I can. Because if I'm standing there like all of a sudden and Pat comes out and I start a conversation using these other skills within the first 30 seconds, as everybody else comes out and when we start walking back in, everyone's going to go, oh, he must know Pat. He must be okay.
Because he was with,
I'm now in your premises.
Wow. It's incredible.
He doesn't trust me.
Lock the doors, Pat. Lock the doors.
Well,
I saw it. I read it.
Scott, how were you in the building before we had the podcast?
It's because I sprayed on your keypad just to see what the last code was presented.
Man, this sort of information in the wrong hands can be insane.
It is true.
Yeah,
because
and you never think about someone would be out there with malicious intent or some sort of aggravation. Look, I see.
Now you've got scamming the scammers and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But Scott, are we an over trusting country? Like, is it?
Good question.
Is it that? I want to believe that he's genuinely having a conversation with me while I'm out. I'm having smoko, and it's just a genuine.
Yeah, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. I mean, so we're over trusting, but we're also ignorant as to some of the easy ways that these things happen, and people don't realize. I mean, you talk about that part because the hacking and stuff is big for everyone, whether it's your bank, your emails, whatever, and we don't understand the reason why. It's behavioural why we do that. if I said to you, how often do you change or are you secure with your email and banking password? You're going to go, yeah, because most people would be. But if you sign up for a software package or you're out somewhere and sign up for a membership at a cafe or whatever, you think, well, that's not really an important one for me. So it doesn't warrant having its own email password combination. So I'll just use one that I've got because this isn't a major thing. So then it's not your bank that gets hacked or whatever. It's these small organizations that get hacked. But because you've repeated that password because you think it's not important, now the hackers are just going to run that email and password combination through all the banks, through all the emails, whatever. So there's a whole heap of things like that where we just don't have password hygiene. We're just lazy and over trusting.
And things like LastPass, for example, I utilize that for my business as part of, where we've got multiple people sharing passwords. That even was hacked, I think last year or the year before. But is that something that people should be implementing into their system if they're sharing passwords or something similar?
I mean, well, the first thing I'd say post this, if you haven't already, is go on the site haveibeenpawned.com, PWNED.com.
I've been to half that site.
Yeah. No, not Russian circus midget.
Look up short black.
Don't go to that site. 'Cause that was 10 years ago. Right?
Have I been pawned? PWNED.
Yep.
Haveibeenpawned.com. If you type your email address in there, it will tell you everywhere that that email's been leaked across any apps, across any programs, instantly. Do that and then let me know how you go. So it's checking things like that from an awareness point of view. But
Scott, how trusting are you as a person? Let's say we've had these conversations. Let's say after this we meet up a couple of times. We have good, genuine conversations. How long is it? I'm not here for validation, by the way. I'm here to know. I'm here to know how long is it until an average sort of relationship in your life can sort of let you feel.
Yeah. Do you have a big friend circle? Do you have a small friend circle?
Great question. I haven't been asked that question before. Great question. I'm one of those people. When I'm in groups and functions and events, I'm very social, and probably because of how I was before, the comedic type person. I can tell you I don't have a lot of friends. I've got some people that I will say, my wife hates when I say this, mission purpose like your friends. So there's people when I did the stuff for the shelter I was very close to with what we wanted to do. I've got people from a training point of view that I'm close to. I think because of background and whatever else, I always want to be that person that people can rely on and come to for support and advice. But I'm not that person that needs the social element and validation. So most of the time, if I've got spare time, then I'm doing what else can I do? Can I train? What else can I read? Whatever. So I'm not the person that needs that social stuff. So I've got people that if I never needed anything, I could reach out and I know that I've got their support and they know the same for me. But I'm not that person that regularly will do social events or outings or whatever else. I think I'm comfortable with my own company. That makes sense. My son's very much the same. My daughter's the opposite. My daughter would go to the opening of an envelope. Yeah. But my son is very much, no, I've got the things that I want to do. I'm comfortable just doing that. So,
and how's your wife? How's your
she's a balance.
She's a balance. Given that you don't like those social circle, but being at home, do you tell yourself I have to switch off the way I am from work, from reading people, coming into the room, noticing us? Is that
you never switch off? And what I mean is, there's things that I speak about, the conversations that we have as well. And I think some of these things that, as I've learned, have made me a better father and a better husband as well. And the conversational things, there's only 3 conversations we have: practical, social, and emotional. I learned that as part of with the behavioural things that I'm doing. Now, if you think as a husband coming through on what we do, something's happened at home that has upset my wife or stressed my wife. She's having an emotional conversation. What I should do is support and hold space for her and try and go through that. But no, what do we do as husbands? We come in with a practical response. Have you tried this? Have you thought of this? Oh, actually, when this happened to me, here's what I did. That's not what she needs. That's not alignment. So you're aligning an emotional conversation with the practical response. It's never going to work. So yeah, what do I say? My brain, it doesn't switch off for things, but there's a lot of things I've learned for that adapt who I've been as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as just a general person. So, my brain doesn't switch off, but I don't stress about it. I think because I've found the spot where I can be of benefit to people, where I'm enjoying what I do, where I'm learning every day. So from my point of view, I'm loving the space I'm in. I'm dealing with the people I should be. I'm in a really good spot.
Is it exhausting?
No, I mean, I'm somebody that doesn't sleep much anyway, and so from your point of view, so I don't feel exhausted. I feel good. I'm back into training because I've had that addictive personality. at different times of my life, that's very much changed. I did polyphasic sleeping for 1.5 years. So I was sleeping 2.5 hours a day. That was it. I was doing 1.5 hours sleep and 2 30-minute naps. One day, read up about that. What's what our bodies are geared for.
Yeah.
If you look at your sleeping now.
So sorry, 4 hours in total?
2.5.
2.5.
And so if you look at how we sleep now over your 6 or 8 hours sleep, you'll find that there's peaks and troughs. You're only getting 1.5 hours, maybe REM sleep and an hour deep sleep, whatever. Polyphasic sleeping means you get rid of the light sleeping. So in other words, when you sleep, you're just getting that, like a deep
straight
sleep.
into the deep sleep.
So during that 1.5 years, when I was doing like for that as well, if you think compared to most people sleeping 6 or 7 hours a night, if I'm sleeping 2.5, in my mind, an extra 4.5 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week,
What could you done?
So, mate, I was I would read through. I was getting through 15 books a week and looking at things as well, podcast learning and that as well. And we all want to be known or balanced when there's an element of our life that's going right. For me, it's intelligence. When I'm learning more, I have that as well. I'm able to share more. That's when I feel my best. Sleeping 2.5 hours, but going through that, confidence levels were great. But my training fell away, so I didn't have that balance. So where I'm at now, with having my own business, with what I'm doing, having some good life balance, things great. I'm just in a good balanced position. So yeah.
And where do you see yourself, Scott, in 5 years? Like what
Or even going forward, because I know that you're
headed?
doing a lot at the moment. So what's in the near future and 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, in the near future, because of I've been very fortunate to have some opportunities over the last 12 months where I've just come back from New Zealand speaking over there. And as a result of how well that went, I was keynote at the safety conference over there. I'm just about to open in New Zealand, and I've got a range of opportunities there.
So the business is
Open in
going.
New Zealand.
Oh, congratulations!
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then a second discussion from that has been somebody helping support in New Zealand and wanting me to work with them potentially in Canada as well. So there's, I think because of that niche now with the behavioural element, because there's nobody else really in Australia teaching what I teach about the combination of facial microexpressions, body language, statement and word, and then underpinning it with either HR or influence or sales or security, I've probably got 2 or 3 years of that where even if somebody wanted to be doing this now, they'd have to go through what I went through with the overseas study. So right now, for the next couple of years, I'm going to keep working on reinventing myself and broadening what we do to try and keep that 2, 3, 4 year gap from a business point of view. While I've got that unique element now, I want to maintain that, and I'm not going to get that by being lazy. The other part then is, I'm the person that when we talk about setting goals, and from a goal setting point of view, probably a whole nother session we could talk about. I think there's multiple goal settings. So I set ones like that are physical goals, that are like your business goals, but even personal goals and all these sort of things. Might be family goal, might be every week I want to try.
I think we definitely need you back on the podcast to go through that and maybe more structured in terms of a business.
And well, some simple ones are things like if you think from a strength point of view, I'm back in a strength goal for my 52nd birthday. I want to be bench press on 150. So I'm on the journey now where I've mapped out everything I need to from then, plus just being fit and healthy.
Tell us what you did for your last birthday present.
Last birthday present. The last present I got, my wife got me an incredible present because I'm a mad adrenaline junkie. So I got to go out in the jet fighter and basically do the whole Top Gun thing with the inverted, like your flips and loops and that full tilt. Oh, I love it. My daughter's the same as me, mad adrenaline junkies. The 5 years from now, now it's the right time. I need to be also spending on, I'll be limited by my inability at the moment now. I need to train and mentor some people to be working with the organisation, because at the moment I could teach people how to run my conflict program or active armed defender program and others, but the behavioural stuff. So I need to be spending some time now on getting some additional people up to that level, because otherwise I'll be limited by
how much
my
you
own
can do.
capability. Because at the moment now it's me centred.
Yeah.
And whilst I love what I'm doing and I'm loving the people I'm dealing with, I need to focus on sustainable business structure. And so that's the plan for me for the next 5 years.
Well,
That's great.
With your teaching, Scott, so obviously there's an element of, to be safe, they need to be aware of the trigger signs. And then how much does that play into then the physical aspect if an attacker attacks or takes, if, it gets violent?
Yeah.
Do you delve into that realm where there's hand-to-hand combat or things like that, or do you?
Yeah, a lot less than what I did. I mean, it's something that where I was doing everything from self-defense for security, but even females in the sex industry and others as well that are getting assaulted. So I was doing a range of elements in there about that awareness and defensive tactics. My training for that, I've been very lucky to once again to train with a range of people from, it was Anthony and the guys when they had the Grange going from a boxing point of view, Tummer and Jamie out at Ilacqua Penrith, the UFC guys and others. So I trained with a mix of people. Went over to Indonesia with the guys from Krav Maga, training with Gagana and Densa Saniak, the counter-terrorism team. So I've had a good mix with these. The appetite has really dropped over the last 5 years with organisations. We used to do training and what I call reality acquisition, stress inoculation. And so where we'd be doing things that would have to go through to 80% use of force level. So when we're saying restrain, it's restrain. It would better prepare people for physical outcomes, but the underutilized element, it would reduce the chance of post-traumatic stress because they're getting used to people raising their voice and some of the physical elements. So some individual and smaller groups do that now, where we do that, where we do some of the physical awareness and things, but it's definitely decreased.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Scott, I usually connect authenticity when I'm speaking with someone with the way they speak and if they smile while they speak. And I noticed you were saying something earlier before when you smiled, and I thought, you know what, this guy's an authentic guy. And then I thought to myself, hang on,
Look at this
I've
guy.
just been taught.
You're not supposed to be analysing you.
That's a genuine smile. So the eye activation there. Yeah.
So now I still feel like you're an authentic sort of guy and a genuine
Thanks.
sort of guy. But now when I speak to other people and they're smiling halfway through their conversation, do I question how authentic that person is?
Well, your genuine smiles, just see the activation around the eyes. So there was a guy, whole other thing if you want to research, William Duchenne, who tried to, back in the 19th century, replicate all the facial expressions by attaching electrodes to different part of people's faces. What we found was certain elements of facial activation are emotion driven. True sadness, you can tell because the inner part of the eyebrows will come in and turn up together. Sorry for all the Home and Away and Neighbours actors because they don't do it. But true sadness, you see these. True happiness, you see the activation of two muscles and the zygomatic being the main one on the side that actually cause the crinkling. So the most smile that you see is this one, hey mate, how are you? Yeah. It's not genuine. But the other thing is we always look to the face. The feet is the most honest part of the body. So next time when you're walking past someone in the shopping centre and they stop and turn and say, hey, how you going? And they're giving you that fake smile, look down at their feet. If their feet are still pointing that way, they only want to be here for 2 minutes. So don't keep gabbing.
Yeah. If they're pointing their feet towards you and then stop.
Then they're engaged in the conversation.
Yeah, well,
It's interesting.
man, we can have this
yeah.
conversation forever.
Yeah.
I have so many questions, but we also want to respect your time. In the interest of time, we want to start wrapping it up. Does anyone have any sort of last minute questions before?
No, I think
start to-
if you want to let our viewers know how they can reach you or if they want to work with you, I guess like you mentioned, you work with a number of organisations. Do you want to maybe let us know who you like working with or who might want to use your services?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix with what I do. So at the moment, I'm working with retailers. I can say I've been successful. Now I'm just picked up working with Sephora National with that retail space. So I'm giving them from some support from retail security, but for their people, some awareness and service. I work with stadiums and events. I can mention Marvel Stadium and Melbourne Olympic Park are some of my clients. Gabba as well. I've got some stuff coming up for Luckier for them. So whether it's individual retailers or mass gathering events, giving people the awareness just to be more aware of the behaviour of others is where I spend most of my time. The other part then is the training then for leaders, managers or individual business, how to be more confident with the way that you communicate, but to be present and pick those signs up in others. So I know people say, hey, no business, look, is too small. Some of the best sessions I've had are working with small individual business where we run through their history. I give them some communication skills and you see them open up and use their gestures and change the way they communicate. And for the first time ever, they can tell their story and they've got some incredible stories. So from my point of view, whether it's raising confidence, whether it's protecting assets, whatever, it's really anybody who's got frontline interaction that's want to be a better person from a communication point of view and be more present, we can have some impact.
Yep.
It's just underpinned by the ability from the security, safety, risk part. That's where I've got the 30 years experience in addition to that.
Perfect. Well, mate, did you want to say anything?
Hand it over.
Oh, well, look, we like to always dive deep a little bit into who you are as a person. And I guess we like to throw off these questions. Yeah, on a light note. So, I don't want you to think. I just want you to say. I don't know how you're going to do that, Scott, because that's difficult for you. But I just want you to shoot out, excuse me, the answers for these questions when I punch them out to you. You ready?
Got it.
So, beach or country?
Beach.
First car?
Nissan Bluebird TRX Silver.
Nice, the old TRX. Favourite sport?
Weightlifting now because I'm right back into it.
Nice. Beer or wine?
Bourbon. I'm not a beer drinker, and I'll always try and have one to be social.
Yeah.
Don't like it at all.
Not a fan?
Exactly.
Not a fan.
One beer or one bourbon?
No, one beer and then multiple bourbons.
Burgers or wraps?
Oh, burgers for sure. So on the slow cooker, I do all the slow cooking stuff.
I love it.
Slow cook 2 hours, slow cook cheese, cheeseburgers. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Next podcast will be
Yeah, we'll have them around. Yeah.
Favorite quote?
Favorite? Oh, that's a good one. It'd be one. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it would be probably like Billy Graham. Hot heads and cold hearts never solved anything.
Nice. I like
So in
that.
other words,
that.
control your temper and awareness, and just and have some empathy. Be people centric. I think is a pretty powerful quote.
Yeah, and then if we could make the country safe in one way, what do you think it would be?
It's going to sound a bit commercial, and I don't mean it this way, but just enhance communication awareness. I think so often with things happen that because we're just not present, we're not aware of the impact of our words with other people. And so we're either doing social media messaging or other things. We need to find a way to better connect with all different age groups so that, to try and just enhance people's awareness of the benefit for stronger communications. That's what will have that safe space so parents and kids can sit around the table with a risk-free environment and talk about what's happening in their life. What can have managers and leaders sit across the table with their team and be able to performance manage, but at the same time them feel valued because they've got some skills. We're fearful of conflict. We're fearful of of some of these perceived negative elements because we lack some of the communication skills. So I think that's a great spot for understanding, for better connection, for all these sort of things, if we can just enhance our awareness with communication.
Love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Mate, last question. You have 3 people that you get to take out to dinner with, and these 3 people could be anyone from your current present or anyone from the past in the history of humanity. Who would those 3 people be and why?
This is one I want to think about and get right for multiple part. And I think, okay, so if there's 3, any people that I could take out for dinner, and I know some people may gravitate to passed away family members or whatever things. I think that for me, I'd rather talk about where I can have the biggest learning on myself from meeting with people. I would love to, and I talk about Barack Obama's like you're speaking, but also there was a lot that he went through, that how he deals with adversity during some of the things that he had. So I think I would learn a lot from him, perhaps of having dinner. I would love to meet with, and he's on my bucket list, so I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, have a steak with Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory, the one who had Quest bars but now has just gone through to focusing on just being a better person and all those sort of things. So I think there'd be a lot from there. The other one, funnily enough, which is on my bucket list, which is going to come across as just bloody weird, that I've said I want to have a Shiraz with Helen Mirren because she's just an old lady, confident, who says fuck a lot.
It's just a funny conversation.
In your eyes, would you say Barack Obama is the best speaker, or do you have a speaker that you would say for you is the best public speaker you've seen?
Yeah, he's from anybody that I try and pick elements out from a range of things, how people speak, from physical presence, from awareness, from communication under pressure. He had one of his speeches where midway through, they stick the presidential sign at the front of the lectern. It fell off. So fell off like life without a second hesitation, without a change in spike, blink rate or anything. He looked and said, look, it's okay. I think you know who I am already. But secondly, just imagine there's somebody out the back who's really panicking right now.
Yeah.
Quick-witted, good communication, but at the same time was other people centered during that time. He's also somebody who I'd say has got the best control of effective pauses on speaking, intonation and cadence. So I would, without a second hesitation, say he is the best communicator I've ever heard in my life.
Well, Scott, mate, just want to firstly say massive thank you from us. I mean, this is probably one of the best conversations we've had on the show. Part of us putting the podcast together was just, not only to give our viewers the opportunity to hear from people like yourself, but for us 3 to learn and
that's all about connecting.
Yeah, and dive deep into people's intellect and man, you've inspired me today to be better. So thank you for this conversation.
Yeah, I think we've had a few podcasts where we've we've interviewed some great people, but we haven't gotten back to that connection. And I think today we really got back to that connection piece in terms of that human emotion, that human behavior, that connecting and really getting back to that.
Yep.
I feel like it's just
incredible amount of gold nuggets and value.
Yeah.
It was just a conversation
I
that
think it
can
was
happen
great.
for a very long time. Scott Taylor, thank you so much for coming and joining us on today's podcast. And thank you to you guys for listening and joining in. We want to add as much value as we can, bringing on the best guests that we can. So this was just another one of them. Thank you.
I
Thanks,
love the
guys.
chat. Thanks for having me. Back anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
We made this a free platform because we want to educate and add value to your business world. All we ask for as a payment is to hit the subscribe button and share it with people that you know would benefit from this conversation. If you want to elevate your connections, we'll see you at the next Connect MacArthur event.